Ta-da. Okay. Welcome to week 7. With that, you should know that we have 2 weeks left in this class. Specifically, there 2 weeks from the day, you will need to have your final exam turned in. So, as always, if you've worked ahead on the writings, go ahead and do that. I'll be posting a discussion board by Sunday. Furthermore, I will be it won't be a redo of an assignment, but it'll be a very similar assignment to that you have done before. So, trying to show off what you've learned for this in this class. Um, that being said, I'm going to go ahead with the total of 6 of you today. What if you have any questions for me? Go ahead. Can someone else confirm that I cut out as well, or if it was just on Miss Sims's side?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Excellent. Sorry, Miss Sims. Think that might be you on your end there. Let's see. Let's see. So, are there any questions that any of you have? Seeing here, pull up grades real quick and see how everyone here did on the exam. Let's look at statistics. So there will be no curve on the exam. Y'all all, as a class, scored very well. 79% average, which is pretty high. This is my easiest exam. So shouldn't be surprised just because I think it's stuff that most people are going to be familiar with. High score of 96, so congratulations. I know the person who got that is in this chat right now, so congratulations to you. Good job. Low score of 64 with a standard deviation of 7.73. So, with that being said, I don't think did any of y'all take the exam already? Or did not have it? Everyone here, I think I had 2 missing exams. And I just want to make sure that okay, cool. All right. So, I can skip it if you'd like me to, or I can go over some of the harder questions if that's something you'd like to do. I plan on doing that. If you'd like me to just get to the lecture and move on, please let me know.
I always like to know the question that everyone missed the most. So if you could.
Okay, absolutely, Miss Coleman. Oh, like I said, this is a pretty good exam. Okay. Yeah, I got a bunch of y'all on this one, and I will admit it's quasi unfair, but uh, unfair because you need to read very closely. But it's not specifically a gotcha question. So anyway, true or false? Only Congress can declare war unilaterally, and only the president can sign treaties unilaterally. Um, actually had had 42% of people answer correctly, which is false. Unilaterally being the key word there, specifically with the president. He cannot sign treaties unilaterally. He can't do it on his own. Still needs to be consent has to be met with Congress. So yeah, that was a pretty big. That kicked a lot of your butts. Let's see. There's another one up here. On interest groups, one of the questions I had here is an example of a public/social interest group would be, and here are the question, or here are the answers. I've got the Teamsters, the International Brotherhood of Teamsters. I have Ecolab Incorporated, AFL-CIO, and then Planned Parenthood. And 58% of you answered correctly with
I know I got it wrong, Professor. We're so silent for that reason.
It's okay. It looks like this is just going to be a class with you and me, Miss Coleman, and I'm fine with that. Go go ahead. Which one did you put, or do you remember putting?
I remember putting Planned Parenthood, but I sat on that one for a bit and was just confused because I feel like that one wasn't correct.
Okay. Well, actually, that was correct, and I'm looking here, and you did choose it. So congratulations to you. Yeah. So good job. But yes. In fact, I think. Let me see here. No, a couple of people in here got it wrong. So okay, but yeah. The deal with that one is that a public/social interest group are those who aren't going to have a motive that is based on financial gain. Like, well, of course, having money, of course, is important, but for them, the idea of public/social interest groups are those that are really non-monetary, and as we kind of talked about before, there's these are very hard ideas. Every group, every interest group is going to have some combination of being an economic interest group that is advancing their own economic agendas, and public social interest group. It's really what are their main motivations and factors. So, Ecolab Incorporated is just a company that sounds has a name that doesn't sound like it's a for-profit company. The Teamsters Union, a long-standing union that's been around for a long time. They are obviously, because they are a union, they are obviously an economic interest group. The AFL-CIO, which seems to be the one that, among those who got it wrong, was the one they chose. The American Federation of Labor Congress of Industrial Organizations is their primary motive is economic and making sure that those in their union are getting paid, are with rights, getting paid, all those other things. I think a lot of people may have confused the AFL-CIO with the ACLU, which is the American Civil Liberties Union. The American Civil Liberties Union would indeed be a public/social interest group, but they were not on here. Planned Parenthood does not, their primary motive is not dealing with making money. Their purpose is specifically about women's reproductive rights and freedom. So that is why the answer is Planned Parenthood. Let's see. I was surprised at how many people got this one wrong. I feel like most everyone in here probably got it right. But which of the following duties does the House of Representatives not do? Sit on committees, initiate revenue bills, create legislation, or confirm judges for lower federal courts? And the answer is obviously going to be, or not be, create legislation. So What does the House of Representatives not do? I put in create legislation just to be silly, but I think I got 2 respondents on that. The answer is going to be confirm judges for lower federal courts. Can someone tell me why the House of Representatives does not confirm judges? What does? I'll give you a clue. It's the same group that confirms Supreme Court justices.
I'm thinking about the president, but I don't know why.
That's okay. That's okay. So it is. Yes. Thank you, Miss Weapon Gong. Perfect. Not only does the Senate advise and consent on Supreme Court picks, they do it for all for the appellate courts, the circuit courts, and they do it for the lower federal district courts. The Senate has to approve all of them. The president selects them, and the Senate advises and approves and consents. So, um, it doesn't matter whether it's Supreme Court or the lower courts. That is what the Senate does. All right, let's see here. Oh, geez. Okay, I am actually surprised at this one, getting rated so low. Um, can someone tell me what is congressional reapportionment based on?
Census?
Yes. Thank you, Miss Weapon Gong, and thank you for showing your face. It was great. It's specifically regarding uh, the had a lot of people congressional reapportionment is based on had a lot of people answer House of Representatives. Uh, a, Proportionment is based on it. How it is after it's been reapportioned is based on how the House does it and how the Senate specifically decides that the lines are drawn. But the census decides how many states get how many districts to be able to divide up in the House. Yeah, so 63% of y'all got that correct. Yeah, there we are. Holy smokes. Okay. I got a couple more. This one's pretty bad. Only 38% of people got this one right. The official spokesperson and representative for a given political party is it the president? Is it the vice president? Is it the national chairperson? Or is it the Speaker of the House? Thank you, Miss Raspberry. It actually is not the Speaker of the House.
I'm sorry, my puppy is going crazy. I want to answer so bad. I think I picked national chairperson,
Okay.
but I think I got it wrong.
Okay. Hold on really quick here. Miss Smith, if you're there, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave the class at this time. Thank you. Anyway, yes. So the answer is indeed the national chairperson. Now, talk a little bit about that real quick. I feel like I may not have gone into depth enough, although at the same time, that's what your book is for. The national chairperson is the person who is the official, the de jure um, leader of the party. In the party capacity, this person is officially the leader of the party. Now, in practice, sorry, Miss Carpenter, it says, "I'm sorry, I'm here." Why are you sorry you're here? You did the exam. Okay, okay. I, I'm sorry you're. I'm sorry you're here. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, um, so the national chairperson is the official representative. However, in practice, as you see, is that if the president from your party is there, they are de facto the leader of the party. So currently, you have oh shoot, gosh, I can't remember the name of the Democratic um, chairperson. Relatively new person. Jamie Harrison. That's right. Um, Jamie Harrison is um, officially the leader of the Democrat Party. However, you don't see Jamie Harrison in the news. You don't see his name all that much. It's not being pushed in headlines, which overall is a good thing. But specifically, you have a Democrat who is currently president of the United States, and they act as essentially the leader of the party. They are de facto. Joe Biden is de facto the leader of the Democrat Party. Uh, 2 years ago, when you didn't have Joe Biden in the presidency, you had really, it was Nancy Pelosi was the highest ranking Democrat as Speaker of the House and served as leader of the party. Um, so yeah, you have the official, and then you have the de facto leader, and so that's kind of what that was. That question was about, was for you to specifically look at. Know who the official party person is, and of course, to be able to distinguish that between how it works in practice. So, uh, let's see. Got a few with y'all with this one. Only 63% got this correct. Which of the following is not an official ideological, that is a third, minor or third party? Um, the answers I have was Libertarian, Green, Tea Party, and Communist. Um, as many of you know, the Libertarian and the Green parties are typically running someone for president or governor, or they're small ideological narrow parties. Libertarianism has a very narrow set of ideas, not a coalitional party like the Democrat Party or the Republican Party. Same goes with Green Party, a very narrow set of ideas that don't have much. There's not much room for a whole bunch of much compromise in those third parties. Um, and so that leaves the Tea Party and Communist Party. Uh, Tea Party isn't really a party. That was the pull on this one. The Tea Party was a movement that happened following, I guess, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, back in 2010, 11, and was started out specifically with for less spending, and then it just morphed into a something that was not just about money and spending anymore. It turned into some, as y'all know, the Tea Party today, something that is has kind of started to fade away now. but you still have a lot of people who were swept into power with the Tea Party movement idea. The biggest one probably being Ted Cruz, U.S. Senator from Texas. Uh, his ascension was very much in due part to the Tea Party movement, which was again about spending less money and to control government spending, which again turned it into something else. The Communist Party is a party. It is an ideological party. We'll see if they still have a website up. But Communist Party USA is still it is still an entity. And yeah, if you Google it right now, communistpartyusa.org. See, what is it? Well, let's see. It's yeah, cpusa.org. And yeah, it is a party. I don't know if they've actually had any wins lately, but they are typically a party. Let me see if they actually have anyone in a position right now. Of course, they always run for someone for president just about every year. Let's see. See, Joe Sims is the co-chair with Rosanna Cambron. So anyway, I'm not sure they have anyone, but they run people for office still. They split from the Socialist Party of the United States. Same thing. So anyway, it is a party that exists. And so the Tea Party was an ideological movement, not really a party. There's no one who was running for office that was part of a Tea Party. So that's what that question was all about. Going through here, looking at more questions. Now this one's fascinating. Which of the following demographics is most likely to vote Republican? The answers I gave were Mexican Americans, Cuban Americans, minors over the age of 18, to which I had, God, hold on. I had 5 people, minors over the age of 18, and then Orthodox Jews. Overwhelmingly, only 21% of people got this one right. And somehow 46% thought it was Orthodox Jews, which is fascinating. You may not know, Orthodox Jews are very much typically vote with the Democrat Party. They are more pro social welfare. Many of you know. Looks like I only got 3 people answered Mexican Americans living in Texas. You should know overall which way they vote, but they have some conservative social values that make them break with many of those who are in this progressive movement of the Democrat Party. And then minors over the age of 18 is something I just made up. There's no such thing as a minor who is over the age of 18. And Cuban Americans, the reason, and only 5 people got it right, so 21% of people got it correct. Cuban Americans specifically come from, have traditionally descended from those who escaped Cuba or those who have continued to escape Cuba, which, as you know, still has a very heavily authoritarian communist regime there. And because of that, their reactionary stance towards Cuba is that they tend to vote with those who want to take a stronger stance against Cuba, which is going to be your Republicans, and who are a little bit tougher on some of those of the communist style of, well, at least it's supposed to be tougher on it. So Cuban Americans in Florida typically vote Republican. So as fascinating as that is true. So okay, I think that's most of the questions that were brutal per se. And are there any questions on any of that?
No, I'm just shocked about the Communist Party thing. So that's a good takeaway.
Oh, good, excellent. Yeah, it's it's real. It exists. It's probably not well funded right now, but it's there. There's a Socialist Party USA, which it split from. There's, I mean, yeah, there's it's all over the board. If you, gosh, it's not science, obviously, but a really fun website to go to and try out sometime is I Side With. Um, if you Google it, it is a lot of fun. You can either put, I think you can either do like 75 questions or you can go much deeper with it, depending on how much you want to talk about or do. And then it gives you a list of national candidates and then also what parties you align with and particular politicians. It's fun. It's like I said, it's not science. It's but it is kind of fun to get an idea of where you stack up against the parties themselves, certain politicians, what the quiz believes that you have the most in common with or don't. It's fun to analyze, examine, think about, make you think about um, how you feel about certain things. One of the cool things on it, you can rate how you can put how you feel, but then you can also put how intensely you feel about something, and that is a nice little thing to be able to again uh, just get a feel for where you are in the ideological field versus the party that you support or the people that you support. It is always fun to see that. Again, it's not science, but it is fun to get some critical thinking going and examining yourself and thinking about what you believe, why you believe, all those fun things that make us Americans. So, oh, with that being said, then think I am gonna move on to. Actually, you know what I want to do right now while I have y'all here, I am going to add extra credit for showing up to class today. So congratulations to you. It won't be much, but it'll be a small thank you for doing what you're supposed to. Does anyone have anything while I'm doing this while I got y'all here? Did any only share if you feel comfortable doing so? Did any of you go and vote this last Tuesday or before then?
Yes, my parents make sure I go vote. They come to my house and pick me up.
That's fantastic. I love it. Make sure you vote. Well, I guess you could, just lead a horse to water. That can't make you drink, so I guess you could just stand there and not do anything. Sorry, I'm trying to move quickly on this, but I don't want to forget. There we go. Uh-huh. Da-da. What's I got here? Let's see if that's everyone. Got Chavez, Coleman, Sims, Carpenter, Weapon Gong, Raspberry, Morales. Okay, cool. All right. So, I think I talked about it in this class before. MS Morales. Look it. Don't worry about it. I understand. Thank you for making it and getting here. You'd only missed us going over the exam. I'm going to be starting the actual lecture here in a few, going over the president and the bureaucracy. Speaking of the election, I had been managing a campaign and at the county level for a judge. Was successful. We won the primary, which I'm very excited about, and so very rewarding. Again, I highly encourage you to get involved either with an interest group or with a politician, lower level. I got to tell you, doing a lower level, those people have much more of a direct effect on your life than the very sexy national politics that is flooding the news typically. If you want to get involved, if you want to make an impact, the lower courts are where it's at. Not lower courts, but the local government is really where it's at. Being able to make a difference in your community. So again, I highly encourage all of you to go and do that. Yeah, it was very rewarding. This is first time I've done a campaign in 8 years, and so it was nice to get back into it. And again, it was really great to win. So definitely encourage you all to go and do that. Let's go ahead and jump into talking about the president. Now, throughout this semester, half semester, whatever, we've already talked a lot about the president and the periphery. This week, we're going to talk about, reinforce some of the things that we have already talked about, but we're also going to talk about some powers that we haven't really talked about. And so, one of the things I'd put in the essay that I'd given you is Richard Neustadt is kind of a legend among. He was like a 20th century Machiavelli, and writing Presidential Power. Like I said, one of the most influential books in politics that's ever been written, specifically on campaign management. And it starts with the idea that the power of the president is constitutionally weak. And this again, this is 1959, so a little bit taken away from where we are. This is 60 years ago. Excuse me, still recovering from last week. I'm just about better though. But Neustadt had some a lot of White House experience. He had served in the executive branch for FDR. The thing about FDR is, again, for better or for worse, depending on your what your background is, FDR did a lot to consolidate power in the executive branch, specifically within the presidency itself. He was a again kind of a guru in a constitutionally how to create a roadmap on how to increase the power of the president of the United States. Because in a way, the president's power was very limited and what it could and couldn't do, even prior, even much more so before FDR. But Neustadt's uh, plan was essentially on constitutional ways, sometimes through the courts, sometimes through a lot of it through executive actions and orders. But um, had essentially created an instruction manual for how you had Kennedy. He worked for Kennedy, as well, had provided the roadmap for Kennedy, for President Johnson, and President Jimmy Carter on ways to constitutionally, but to novel ways to use the president's power. One of the things that you'll hear often, you may remember from your high school courses regarding Teddy Roosevelt, who was president from 1900 to 1908. What he called the president being the bully pulpit, and that is essentially to have the power to persuade Congress to act in their favor, or act in the president's favor how they want to. Part of that's because he has a veto power. If a bill comes across that he doesn't like, or doesn't fulfill everything he wants to, he has the power to veto, and it takes a 2/3 vote in Congress in each of the chambers to do it, which is very hard to do. So, and again, I want you to know that a veto isn't necessarily, it is powerful. It just doesn't happen most of the time, and that's because the threat of a veto is typically how it's used. It is a president says, "Yeah, you can throw up whatever you want on my desk, but if it looks like this, I'm going to veto it. I'll let you know now." And as we talked about during Congress, the week that we talked about Congress, all of the effort and time and negotiation that happens between the 435 House members and the 100 Senate and the conference committee that gets together, there is a lot of work and time and effort that gets put into that. So the president um, is a part of that process, just not in a direct way. But they always have to, people who are trying to pass a law are always going to be thinking, okay, yeah, but will the president sign this? Is essentially at the end of it, will the president sign it? So, and good congress member, good congressman will contact the will try and keep communication lines open with the president and not just assume. But anyway, let's see. Uh, One of the things that Neustadt had done is essentially advised presidents and created a roadmap to be able to play both sides against each other to be able to cut a deal. FDR did have overwhelming members of his own party in power during that time, but was still able to get a lot of unanimous decisions, or near unanimous decisions, in the House and the Senate. Um, FDR was very good at convincing, being able to reach across the aisle. Um, President Reagan actually was as well. The narrative has probably changed over time, but you go back and look at a lot of the votes that had come through, where you had a Democrat Senate during this time, not just I think the House, no, the margins are narrowed, but I believe it was either one chamber or the other was Democrat. So um, he was able to cut a deal, but things that were specifically on things that he wanted. So he could pick a little from here, pick a little from his own party, and be able to pursue things that he desired as president. Bill Clinton was a classic example of being able to split, a moderate able to uh, grab things from both sides and to bring people together and to get his agendas passed. President Clinton was very effective in doing that. Oh, let's see. What's a lot of fun with Neustadt is that his idea was that a strong president was a good president. Um, as new editions of his book came out, there started to be some changes, some caveats with maybe a pure power of the president, maybe too powerful of a president isn't a good thing. Gosh, sorry. Um, you had Nixon, obviously being one that was one that a lot of people will think of an abuse of presidential power, not just because of the tapes. Furthermore, beyond that, President Johnson was also an example of maybe some of that power being able to go too far, specifically when dealing with Vietnam. Not needing, not getting congressional approval to send troops there, but using some legal loopholes and being able to, we're just placing people here in this area. We're just, guarding. We have these different things, but it's definitely not war. Okay, guys, is essentially what Johnson was able to do. Um, a lot of people forget that it was Nixon who had ended the Vietnam War not long after Johnson there. So anyway, um, oh, let's see. Oh, let's talk about the executive order. We hear this a lot in the news. We've seen a lot of presidents do it. It's interesting because it's executive orders are not law. Okay, they are absolutely not law whatsoever. You just saw. Let's see, when President Obama had left the White House, President Trump had come in and he had essentially reversed a bunch of the orders. And then you saw a lot of the same things happen whenever President Trump left office and President Biden comes into power, essentially revoking a bunch of the executive orders that were written by the previous guy and then putting out your own. Executive orders are essentially guidance on how to execute certain laws that can sometimes stretch into being unconstitutional. Specifically, if they interpret something so badly, essentially, that it does the opposite of the law or creates almost creates a new law by itself. But a lot of them are very carefully worded and able to step around what you're able to do. A law is going to have passed by Congress is going to have certain parameters what can and can't be done. An executive order is going to say, okay, this is how we do it. It is if any of you are familiar with let's see, the police code or something like that. The executive order is a codification, that is the coding of legislation. So we got laws passed, the code, the executive order is the code. It says, here's how we're going to do it. I hope that, I think it's as simple as I can make it. But yeah, it's essentially, gosh, I'm trying to think of maybe an easier way. Uh, the law says at 3 p.m. you have to throw the ball. Okay. The executive order comes out and says that we will only throw the ball underhanded while facing the sun. And then that still fulfills the law, but it gives specific guidance on how it's going to be executed. So let's see. So Many of you are familiar with the cabinet. One of the president's cabinet. The president's cabinet has most of the big secretaries, but many of them are kind of left to their own domains. Their job is to essentially run those aspects of the executive branch and not make it a problem for the president. Is essentially their job. Some exceptions to this: you have the Secretary of Defense, you have Secretary of State, the Treasury, and the Attorney General, who have a lot of face time with the president, and that's because they are specialists that are really need to have day-to-day access and being able to execute the vision and to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to, and that they are able to communicate with the president. Um, anyway, other other departments. Department of Interior isn't going to be talking with the president every day. They're going to meet regularly. They're going to have cabinet meetings. But they're not essentially with the day-to-day things that the president is going to be doing. Secretary of Energy, same thing. Secretary of Education, he chose those people to run those departments so that it to essentially let the buck stop there, and choosing people who were going to be competent and able to administer the functions of that branch. Hopefully. Any questions there?
No.
Okay. I am going to take a small break. I need to get some more water. Um, I will be back at 8:55, and we'll start back up again. I'm sorry, my throat's just getting dry and scratchy, and I'm having to cough a lot. So uh, I'll be back soon. 8:55. All right. Okay, good. Uh, so, move on. First of all, last chance for questions on the president. Anything you want to know? Any questions on what I've talked about? Any questions on what I haven't talked about? Thank you, Miss Raspberry. Um, so the federal government, the bureaucracy, that is everyone who is not an elected official and is not appointed directly by the president. The bureaucracy are people who are permanent employees of the federal government. They are regardless of which president is in power, uh, do the work and administer the public services and goods of the United States. You have around 3 million employees who work for the federal government. That's a lot. And in a nation of around 330 million people, 3 million of them work for the federal government. So that's everything from your U.S. park rangers all the way up to your energy scientists, who are all the way to your generals, and then to the Secretary of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So that is there are a huge variety of jobs. Um, Not Secretary of Indian Affairs, but let's say a secretary for who is correspondent for the Bureau of Indian Affairs. Anyway, you get the idea. Is that there are a great many jobs and a great many people who work for the federal government. It is a large, very large entity. It is the largest employer in the United States. The federal government is the largest landowner in the United States, and therefore also administers, leases the most land out of everywhere in the United States. Anyway, with a several $1 trillion budget on top of that, they are massive, and so they're not going to always, how do you say, be efficient. I guess is the nicest way to put it. Um, in a great many ways, the bureaucracy works. May not be with time, and I feel specifically over the last 20 years, the bureaucracy has become a little bit more forgiving with easier access. One of those things is it finally moving itself to the internet age, being able to fill out forms online, being able to, you know, things as simple as, well, you did this in blue pen instead of black pen, and so we can't accept it. Which, whenever I applied for my um, passport, I actually did run into that with blue pen versus black pen, but you see a lot less of that these days. Again, part of that's because the electronic age, and them being able to move into it in a secure way, um, able to read, organize, do things more. So as technology advances, and as the government uh, adopts these technologies, you're going to see better efficiency. But in a monolith of 3 million people, it's going to be hard to have a system that works like, let's say, a local government, and to be as responsive as that. Um, The thing is that we don't see it work most of the time. A lot of it doesn't. Our interstate system. Obviously, Miss Morales here. I'm guessing running into I-35, Interstate 35, which is federally funded. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of things that suck regarding that. But the benefit that comes with having an interstate freeway like that is typically greatly outweighs unless you're doing construction, in which case, yeah, it's pretty awful. But at the same time, all that is to say is that we don't see a lot of the, good job, Department of Transportation, for finishing that contract on time. Or we don't see people who do government bureaucrats who do go out of their way to make things easier. I myself got to deal with someone at the State Department who went out of their way to get my passport mailed to me 3 days before my trip because it had gotten messed up before that. Anyway, we don't see often the good things, and that's because that stuff doesn't get reported because, again, it's not sexy for the news. We see, and that is not me giving a full-throated defense of bureaucracy. I wish it was instantaneous. I wish it worked a lot more like companies and being able to deliver goods and services on time. But um, I just want to put it in perspective for 3 million employees, and they're still able to function despite being so moving at a glacial pace most of the time. Um, oh, let's see. Yeah, so it is. Have any of y'all watched Parks and Rec? I might be aging myself at this point. Anyway, there's a great line that Ron Swanson has at the end, talking about how talking about. Thank you, Miss Raspberry. I appreciate the vote of confidence. I specifically was saying that federal government, that's just a second retirement, as essentially, and it's amazingly hard to get fired at a government job. Um, Part of that's because of the federal union who exists in the first place. However, there is also um, certain rights and things that are afforded to people. It costs a lot to hire new people and train them, and so you only have 1 out of 800 federal workers get fired for doing a bad job. What I've seen them do actually a lot more lately is move on to have contractors, um, 1 year contracts, and see how it goes, and then move them on to full time, or just kind of let them go, depending on what the needs of the department are. That seems to be a much more common approach that they take these days. Oh, let's see. So, if you get yourself a government job, they usually, as long as you're not one of the super high stress ones, they're pretty cushy. The retirement system is insane. And also, there are, for you college students, uh, following your graduation, or should you go to a 4 year institution after this and do your graduation, there are jobs available specifically for recent graduates. And so, if you are, if there's something in a department, something that you care about, if there's an idea that you care about, there's probably going to be a job there for you. And again, they do leave slots open specifically for new graduates. So, if that interests you, something that is consistent, and you get 8 to 5 and you get your 10 federal holidays every year, that might be the way to look. Oh, sorry. Anyway, uh, See, I don't know. I'm not going to read you a story from my supplemental reading here. Anyway, I suppose what I want to say about the bureaucracy is a lot of them are just normal jobs that just happen to be in the public sector instead of the private sector. Your exceptions, of course, you have the Department of Defense is going to be a little bit different, and some here and there, but essentially that they're about managing and maintaining and administering services for the federal government to the people. It is like I said, notoriously slow, but at the same time, there is a lot to take. There 330 million Americans to take care of, to address, and to be able to deliver some goods and services to. And so, anyway, all that is to say, they exist. They can be in the way. They can also be a very good thing. I don't know if I have much to say beyond that, really. USAjobs.gov is a website that you can look at. That is the official federal government website that you can join on with and be able to get hired on following graduation, or now if there are definitely some jobs in there that do not require a degree if you have a specialization. Yeah, shoot, maybe I shouldn't have taken that break because I don't know if I have much more to go off of or to answer questions. It's one of those things, normally what I do in my class, I got 3 hours of lecture time per week, but there is so much to cover, and I cannot compress 6 hours into 2 hours. And so, the lecture you're getting is very generalized. So I apologize for that. But, if there's specific questions that I can answer or ideas that you have, I'm always glad to do it here in class. And of course, I'm always glad to do it in person as well. But if there are things that I can expound upon that would help your understanding of the federal government, I'd love to know it. So, thank you for going. We got to go over the exam earlier today. We are 2 weeks away from today. 2 weeks away from this class being done. Gosh, I'm not sure I have much more to say than that. So, with that being said, hey, I hope you'll have a good weekend, and I'll see you at the same time in a week, and it'll be the last time. It might be the last time we talk. We'll see. So, message me if you need any help, something I can help you with, direct you toward, and I will see you then. I'm going to stay here for the next 10 minutes. Good night. Yes, ma'am. You bet. Yes, ma'am. You bet.